Hi, say hi, Casper. Say hi, Casper. In my excitement to make today's video, I completely forgot to do an introduction, and now I'm on daddy duty, so Casper's joining me. Hello, welcome. This video is about 5 common lies we tell ourselves, and maybe the things we should say instead. I hope you enjoy. I can't afford that. I can afford that, but it's not something I want to spend my money on. But I don't want to hurt their feeling or sound cheap by saying that I don't want to pay that for the product or service. So instead, I'll just say I don't have the money for it. That way, no one can argue with me, and I'll go away feeling better about myself. That's not something I'm going to choose to spend my money on right now. Now, I'll give some people some slack on this one. I think a lot of people use this as a way of trying to not be rude to other people. For example, my wife is a photographer, a portrait photographer, and people will contact her and say, we want to get our pictures taken, how much do you cost? And Keely will send them the information, and then they'll come back and say, I'm sorry, we can't afford that right now. And then a couple days later, Keely sees on their social media feed that they just went to Hawaii, or they bought a new car, and it's made clear that yes, they do probably have the money, they just decided it wasn't something they wanted to spend their money on. And Keely doesn't feel entitled to have everybody who comes to her use her services and pay whatever she asks. However, when people say that, oh, I can't afford that, but then it's pretty clear that they have their money that they're spending on other things, it kind of hurts their credibility a little bit because they're not really telling the truth. It would be far better for them just to say, Keely, we love your work. We think you're worth every penny that you're charging, but that's just not something we're willing to spend that much money on at this point in time. There's nothing wrong with saying that. It's the truth. I think the biggest reason that people shouldn't say I can't afford that is because if they can afford it, then they're lying. Even if they're not lying to someone else, they're lying to themselves. And every time we say something that is untrue, we create a barrier between ourselves and our money. And the more things that we say that are untrue, the more we start to believe those untruths. I can afford it. I can't afford that. But I want it now, and I'm not willing to wait and save up for it. So I'm going to borrow as much as I can over the longest period possible so that the lowest monthly payment is something that I can pay every month. I really don't have the money to buy this right now, and I'm not willing to save up for it and wait. So I'm going to borrow instead. But it's okay, I know what I'm doing, and I'm okay with that decision. Now, although I'm in favor of having the option to borrow money, and I've taken advantage of that, I've borrowed money every time I bought property. Sometimes I wish that we didn't have access to such relatively easy to get money by borrowing through credit cards and mortgages and student loans. Debt can be used to benefit your life, I believe that, but it can also have huge disadvantages. Debt can be a rope that helps you get up the edge of a cliff, but it could also be a snake that turns around and bites your hand. There's nothing wrong with saying, I don't have the money to buy that. There's no reason to be ashamed of that. There doesn't need to be shame in admitting the truth. Actually, it can be quite empowering. You don't need to buy everything you want. In fact, I think we get more satisfaction out of buying something or working hard to get something. And by skipping that hard work step and simply borrowing the money and buying it now, I think we actually get less enjoyment out of our life and out of the things that we buy. And isn't it ironic that we say, I can't afford that to things that we actually can afford, and we say I can afford it for things that we actually can't afford? I'm going to invest in a new couch. This couch is ugly and I want a new one. But a new couch is expensive, so I'm going to justify it by calling it an investment. After all, I'm investing in my comfort and well-being, right? I'd like to get a new couch. I know it's expensive, but it's okay. I have the money saved up, and it's how I want to spend it. Now, the word investment gets misused a lot nowadays. So much so that it almost means the exact opposite sometimes of what the original word was supposed to mean. I have this older dictionary, and the definition of investment is an outlay of money for the purpose of making a profit or an income, or the specific asset purchased for the purpose of profit or income. And the verb form, invest, is simply the action of doing that, putting the money out to make a profit or an income. However, if you look up the definition now, the definition of investment is almost exactly the same, word for word, except it adds the word usually. It says an outlay of money, usually for profit or income. So it puts that exception in there. And then the verb form, invest, there's 3 different definitions. There's one, the same thing, about investing your money for profit or income. Second definition is to make use for future benefits or advantages. She invested her time wisely, would be an example of that. And the third would be to involve or engage emotionally, as in they were heavily invested in their child's well-being. Now, I have no problem with definitions of words changing over time to meet how we use the word. However, the more definitions that we give to a word, the less meaning that word actually has. It becomes more meaningless the more meanings it's given. Take love, for example. I can say, I love my wife. I can also say, I love the smell of fresh baked cookies. I could say, I love my shirt, and I love the weather today, and I love my job, and all those things mean a slightly different thing. And so, now, when the word love is used, it doesn't carry the impact that it used to have when love meant one specific thing or 2 specific things. So the more meanings a word is given, the more meaningless it becomes. So when we say, I'm going to invest in a new couch, we're using a word that gives us a good feeling, like we're doing something, like we're making some sort of accomplishment. But buying that couch will never provide you with a greater income. It will never be worth more than it is today. In fact, it'll be worth almost nothing in a couple years, and probably you'll have to pay someone to take it away. So it is the exact opposite of what an investment actually is. However, you use that word, I'm going to invest in a couch, and you buy the couch. And every time you see that couch, you're going to be happy because you like the way it looks. You're going to be happy when you sit in it. You're going to be happy with your decision. You're going to feel instant gratification. Unfortunately, instant gratification is the exact opposite of investing. You sacrifice now so that you can get a better reward later with investing. The more we associate the word investment with the wrong things, the less likely we are to actually make true investments. But this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Or, you're only young once. Or, you can't take it with you when you die. I know that I should be using this money to pay off debt or invest for the future, but I don't have the discipline to do either of those things. So instead, make it sound like I'm making the wiser financial choice by actually spending the money now and saying, I'm living for today. This is something I really want to do, and I'm willing to sacrifice some potential future well-being so that I can enjoy this today. The truth is, there are very, very few things that are truly once-in-a-lifetime experiences. There are very few things that you could do today that are not going to be available in 3 or 5 or 10 or 15 years. Almost everything that you could do today, you will have an opportunity to do in the future. And by saying things like, you're only young once, or you can't take it with you when you leave, is, in many cases, just a way to say, do the irresponsible thing now, because if you don't do it now, you're probably never going to do it. This is a mindset of limiting beliefs. It's a mindset of scarcity and fear of missing out. Take a look at this picture. I can't pronounce his name because he's from Japan, but he's the oldest person to have successfully summited Mount Everest. He's 80 years old. Or take a look at this picture. I'm sure you recognize this man. He's the oldest person at age 70 to become President of the United States. You see, the problem with saying things like you're only young once limits your future self. Because you're thinking to yourself, if I pass up this opportunity, I'm never going to have the opportunity again. And so, more than likely, that becomes true for you because of your own beliefs. Because of the limits you put on yourself and your future self. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing things now to enjoy life. We shouldn't sacrifice all the time so that we never have enjoyment. But we also should be careful not to limit ourselves by not preparing for the future. Why pay cash for that when the interest rate is so low? I can invest and make more than that. I don't actually have the cash to buy this, but in theory, if I did, I could make more by investing. So I'm going to sound financially savvy and tell myself and others that I'm leveraging my money. I don't want to feel the pain of paying for this in cash, so I'm going to borrow the money instead. Now, to be honest, I have a little mixed feelings with this one, because like so many things, you sprinkle a little bit of truth into a bigger lie. You can focus on the truth and say, well, that's accurate, but the rest of that is misleading. Let me give you an example. YouTuber that I watch, Graham Stephan, he talked about how he bought a $40,000 Tesla. There was a lot more to the video, but in part of it he said, I decided to finance this at 3% because I know I can take the difference and invest it in the stock market and in real estate and make at least 8%. And that's true. You can do that. However, most people don't have the cash to go and make that purchase. So it's just a theory argument, but it never actually comes into play. With Graham's channel, with his scenario, he had the $40,000 cash. And he already has real estate investments. And he already has stock market investments. So the likelihood of him actually following through with that is very high. But I think most people who use that as an excuse or reason to go ahead and finance the car or finance the whatever is because they want to do what wealthy people do. But the problem is they're not wealthy. And so they don't have the money to actually make that decision. And so the whole argument is a pointless argument because they're not going to do, or they're not able to do what they say they're going to do. So, unless I have the cash to make the purchase and the extra monthly income to make the payment, and I have investments that I would actually put the money into, then I can truly make that decision. But if I don't have the monthly income or I don't have the cash, then I can't make that decision. And so it's not right for me to use that argument. Okay, that's the video. If you liked it, give me a like, a thumbs up, say something in the comments, subscribe to the channel. Until next time, say bye-bye, Casper. Bye-bye.